Alright, y'all. Let me be real with you. I've been playing this motherfucking Sonic fan game since its second release, and it's been nice! And I just want to fucking gush about it, okay? Let me do that, alright? Play my fucking song. Alright, so Sonic Unleashed saw the introduction of the Boost gameplay style, the second 3D Sonic game style. This style introduced the most OP version of Sonic. He's super fast, and the Boost makes him a god in the air, and on the ground. But this introduced another problem. Now Sonic is too fast, so how are players gonna fucking... To compensate for the speed, they essentially put guides into the levels that Sonic would lock into when running. All the 3D sections where you go fast are essentially on loose rails. That isn't to say there aren't portions without them, but when they remove them, it's parts where they slow down the player, or otherwise a portion where the point is that you're fully in control. Unfortunately, Sonic's Boost games began to further rely on these guides as the titles went on, with the worst offenders being Colors and Forces. Sonic's levels began to essentially be 2D titles disguised as 3D titles, or games that play themselves. Sonic Forces especially left many fans yearning for a new fully 3D game that didn't rely on such gimmicks. One that took full advantage of Sonic's awesome toolkit, and one that has difficulty and freedom. Then, it happened. BAM! The Infinity Engine. The Infinity Engine is a fan engine created initially by Obon and improved by the FizzWiz. It takes all the abilities that modern Sonic has and makes all of them non-contextual. Okay, what does that mean? You know how in Sonic Generations you jump off a spring and chemical plant and you start skydiving down this tube? Or the part in Rooftop Run where you gotta run down this long road and you gotta quick step into lanes and hit the robots? That's scripted. This is the skydiving section. You can only skydive here. This is the quick step section. The quick step only really works here. It's all contextual. In the Infinity Engine, the context is gone, or at least it's a bit more open-ended. You can skydive anywhere as long as you're high enough. You can quick step anywhere also, though it's a little unnecessary now. And most importantly, you have free 3D control and can essentially control Sonic 100% of the time. No more automation, no more path constraints, we have a fully 3D Sonic game. But anyway, that's not exactly what we're here to talk about. This is where Sonic 2020 comes into play. Sonic 2020 takes the Infinity Engine and looks to make a game of like pretty high quality that takes advantage of the engine's mechanics. Pretty simple, huh? Well, it's fucking good! There's cutscenes, voice acting, a story, some original music, some stuff like the script writing and voice acting can miss. But regardless, there's a ton of fucking effort put into this. Anyway, let's forget about all that fluffy stuff for now, because I want to tell you about the main event, alright? The age-old question Sonic developers struggle with is how do you develop a level for a guy that runs fast like Boost Sonic? The answer they came up with is automation in 2D, but the Mania team behind Sonic 2020 decided, nah, fuck that shit. So how do you design a fully 3D Boost Sonic game, alright? Well, let's break down what Sonic's moveset is made of and find out how the stages address it. Most importantly, Sonic is fast. Like really fast. Related to that is the boost, a way to get immediate speed. The air boost allows you to dash forward at high speed in midair, but doesn't make you immune to gravity, so you'll still fall if you're already falling. Sonic's jump, unlike a lot of official games, is heavily reliant on momentum here. So while he does get some height, as long as he's moving fast, he'll more likely get horizontal distance from it in this engine. Same goes for the double jump, but it more so acts as a course correction mechanism. The stomp is a downward slam that also stops your forward momentum, allowing you to immediately and precisely land while over a platform. The bounce attack can be used as an attack, but is mainly used as a special higher jump after bouncing 3 times. Crouching and boosting allows you to perform a spin dash, which is pretty cool and doesn't use meter. The slide not only does damage, but it also allows you to get through tight spaces. The homing attack is useful for killing enemies, and when chaining them together can be used to cross gaps. Keep in mind that this specific version of the move defies gravity and is entirely dependent on the camera, which I honestly think is a great trade-off and feels really good. Last but not least, when Sonic gets high enough, he begins to skydive, which lends him a little bit more mobility while in the air. Now that we got that out of the way, how do these stages take advantage of these? First of all, Sonic speed. How do you make Sonic easy enough to control without rails, but also fast? The answer is to just do it as well as you can, but more importantly, change how your roads and other running areas are designed. You'll notice that in all these levels, the roads are incredibly wide, where they're arced like half pipes. That's specifically to make it as easy as possible to remain on these roads while going fast. You never want to imply that it's required that you slow down at any point, and a narrow road tells the player that they're in danger. This is precarious, better slow down. Actually remaining at high speed on a narrow road is impossibly difficult, and you never want to make the player feel like something as basic as going fast at a place is impossible at all. On wide roads, the edges are obvious enough to see, and the width provides the player with leeway to make corrections. However, it's still not automatic. Sure, you can do this with relative ease.
Tails, find where the emerald signal is coming from.
I'm now tracking the signal, Sonic.
But if you just turn your brain off, you'll do this. Keeping it manual keeps players on their toes, but also means that when players get better, they can further optimize these paths or pull off tricks by going off the path entirely. Speaking of roads being large, you'll notice that not just the roads, but everything is huge, and it's especially apparent in level 2 Tree Palace. The entirety of this level is a lot of wide open areas, and a lot of using your aerial mobility to your advantage. That's why these areas are as large as they are. It facilitates the use of the air boost, the stomp, and the skydive. Having a lot of empty aerial space and large platforms serves the same purpose as making roads wide. The perceived dangers and goals are very obvious, and the empty space acts as leeway for players to observe and react, or plan on how to reach the goals or avoid the danger. For example, in this section of Tree Palace, the spring sends you up in the air, and what you're supposed to do is skydive over to this platform. But you're given a lot of air time to look around and have that register, or return to the spring and try again. In addition to leeway in terms of player cushion, there's also leeway in terms of player creativity. I already mentioned how players can go off the beaten path and take shortcuts, but the game sort of actively encourages this. The levels in this game have a sort of vague design philosophy, where they essentially provide you with a goal, but not a clear path to get to it. Something as simple as a large gap can essentially be a puzzle and a speedrun opportunity. For example, in Mold Jungle, this section here can be done like this. But it can also be done like this. In addition to just having vague design, the alternative paths are designed with a trade-off of difficulty and speed. The easiest, most explicit paths are always the slowest, and the way to get to the fast paths is to take a risk and look for it. Usually it's obvious, like a dash ring in midair, or a thing you can homing attack off to the side, but it's always more difficult to reach. For example, in Tree Palace you can go through this section like this, or like this. Okay. So this might not have seemed like it, but this part in particular is the sickest part of the game. Because then after you play the levels the safe way the first time, you start to get a little observant. You start seeing things off to the side, things you might have skipped out on. And so you're like, I wonder if I can just wham! You've skipped the whole platforming section, and you're like, holy shit, if I can do that, what else can I do? Then before you know it, you're breaking the game all over the place. Boost jumping across gaps, performing impossible high-speed platform jumps using boost and stomp in quick succession. The upper limit gets wild when Sonic's moveset is unlocked, and when levels are well designed like they are in this game, it makes the player start to think creatively, not just about the obvious level things like roads and platforms, but also about the level geometry and its layout. They'll start asking questions like, yo, what if I boost off this slope and jump into the air? Maybe I can skip this whole fucking section. Or, what if I boost jump across this gap? Suddenly, I don't have to do the platforming section, and I'm going faster. I know I keep bringing up Tree Palace, but in this particular particular part in Tree Palace, you're supposed to hit these blue things because they bring you up and you can progress. But if you're good, you can just boost off this slope and jump into the ring yourself. And the game doesn't tell you that, you just fucking figure that shit out. This is how Sonic games should be designed, because it supports replayability. You want to come back to these levels because you want to take alternate paths and even further optimize and make new paths that you can spot as you get better. The complexity of the game scales with the scale of the player, and that's just fucking perfect. Look, this specific type of gameplay style lends itself to being pretty difficult and pretty hard to completely master, but it's extremely gratifying when you do. I'd say that this fan game is a similar style platformer as Super Meat Boy or Celeste. Dying in this game has little to no consequence. You die and quickly respawn at the last checkpoint. The checkpoints themselves never really felt too sparse when I was playing, but a neat thing that the designers took advantage of was that switches stay activated even after you die, and levels tend to be designed so that when checkpoints are spaced out widely, activating the switches when you reach them provide shortcuts that drastically reduce the time it takes to get back to where you were. The game cares more about you, the player, getting through the stage, learning the mechanics, and trying again, than penalizing you for dying. The speedy way of regaining progress once you die also makes the harder difficulty easier to swallow and get used to. You might have noticed that I haven't said anything about the homing attack yet, and it's mostly because I forgot. While there isn't much about it that isn't self-explanatory, Sonic 2020 does take it just a little bit beyond its traditional use. Earlier, I said it's used as an attack and a way of using enemies to cross gaps, but it can also homing attack objects. This is important because in Sonic 2020 it's used as a way of getting players to extremely precise locations easily. In this engine, you're able to move incredibly fast. It's pretty unrealistic to expect players to be super precise, especially not initially. So whenever the game needs you to be precise, they let you use the homing attack. Rails have always been a bit of a problem to land on in Sonic games without help, but here you're able to homing attack the edges, getting you to the rail easily without too much hassle as well as keeping the momentum going. The homing attack is also used as a bit of a crutch for starting players. Before you're able to break the game and perform high-speed platforming, you gotta learn regular platforming. Mold Jungle has these hanging platforms, much smaller than any platforms you've ever had to land on previously. So as a way of helping players initially, robots will be placed on top of these platforms as a way to get to the platform automatically and safely, using the homing attack. Then once you get a feel for how they work and how to land on them, you can jump to them yourself. I also mentioned that the homing attack defies gravity. That just means you're able to homing attack upwards, which isn't the case in official Sonic games. I personally think it's a fun change and pairs especially well with the fact that it's tethered to the camera. This makes it an even stronger traversal tool and allows the designers to make things like this and have it register as a movement puzzle to the player instead of just randomly scattered enemies. Some diehard Sonic fans probably won't like the fact that the homing attack defies gravity or some other changes this game has. Tethering the homing attack to the camera was never how it worked in the games after all, and there's a lot of stuff like that in this fan game. But the thing is, that's the point. The game doesn't feel like official games because it's not a normal Sonic game. It's different and is therefore designed differently. Tree Palace is a fucking slow-paced, exploration-based level. Sonic specifically has never had those, and I'm sure people hate it. I hated it too initially. It wasn't until I took a step back and stopped putting the game into my own preconceived Sonic box that I began to have the most fun with it. That's when I began to notice all the ways in which the stages allow you to forge your own path. When you change your perception, it becomes way easier to see the game not as a series of paths that connect or branch off, like the official Sonic titles, but as one large space with loose suggestions of paths. Sonic 2020 shined when it gives you liberty with how you approach even going through a simple pathway, and the Mania team uses that quality super well. I honestly cannot recommend this game enough. Sonic 2020 is an amazing, well-designed experience. It represents the upper limit of the Sonic Boost formula that I really hope Sega and Sonic Team see and point official Sonic towards. If you're a Sonic fan, especially of Sonic Adventure and or the Boost games, I urge you to give this game a try. Play it on controller and let me know your thoughts in the comments. In fact, while you're down there, let me know if you want to see more. Like and share, subscribe if you're new, and click the bell icon to be notified of when I upload. I make music remixes and a few originals, so look out for those. I really hope you guys like me talking about games in general though, because I'm really feeling the vibe of this, and I want to do it more since game design is actually my college major. So be on the lookout for those as well now. Anyway, have yourselves a nice day, play Sonic 2020, I'm out of here.